How we doing? It's Mailman Nick. Follow me on Instagram at Nick Venti. If you enjoy this content, please give me a thumbs up. Don't treat me like a 204B over here. And obviously, these are my own thoughts and opinions. I'll not speak on behalf of the Postal Service. So I got a special guest with me, John. He's part of my branch 4016. John, thank you for joining me. Uh, why don't you tell the people your background, your experience with the post office and the union?
Sure thing, Nick. And by the way, thanks for having me on. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to our members. So I'm John Poskin. I've been a letter carrier since 2001. So I got 23 years as a letter carrier. I started working as a union official in 2014. I stepped up to be the steward in the Tri-City office. So I've been a steward there for 10 years. My branch sent me to Formal A training in 2017. So I've been a Formal A rep for branch 4016 for about 7 years, and I cover good 6, 7, 8 offices at various times, assisting with Formal A grievances. I'm a backup member of the DRT or Step B team since 2017 as well. I served 3 years as a branch trustee, and I'm currently the recording secretary for branch 4016 as well, and I've been an arbitration advocate since 2019. I've gotten involved in a lot of different things with the union, as you can see.
Yeah, very extensive resume, very extensive. Everybody always speaks highly of you at my office. So what are some basic rights? Like I got a lot of new people on my new carriers who are just starting out and even veteran carriers. What are some basic rights that carriers should know that may not be as known as other union rights that people know?
Well, CCAs and PTFs tend to be your newer employees, and a lot of times they don't, always aware of, they do have like a daily work hour limit of 11 and a half hours. They're not required to work beyond. Even CCAs do have some health benefits. They're a little different than they are for PTFs and career employees. They do, they get uniform allowances. They have the right to be a union member. They could run for branch offices. They could be union stewards. Like none of that's prohibited. After 60 days, a CCA could put in a bid on like what's called an op bid or a hold down bid, which is like a vacant route for 5 days or more, whether it's a carrier on vacation, off on a long-term injury, off on a union detail or 204B detail. But, those kind of things. Which is a big thing for the CCAs because it does help them kind of get a little more regular schedule. Not that they can't be worked extra on their off day, but at least they know the days that they're on the route, that they come in, they case the route, they do the route. And it gives them a little more of a knowledge when they're coming in, because a lot of times they can be scheduled the day before their schedule can change and those kind of things. So I think that's one of the bigger ones for them. If you're CCA for 2 years in the same facility or same installation, they do convert to PTF on the third pay period after that if they don't become a regular in the interim. There are some facilities out there that hire straight to PTF. I know in our branch, Batavia, off the top of my head, does that. I can't state another one off the top of my head that does, but there might be one or two other ones, which obviously has a little higher rate of pay. PTFs get sick leave where CCAs do not. PTF time counts towards retirement. They have actually, PTF is much closer to a regular than they are to a CCA. A lot of people try to call them glorified CCAs, but that couldn't be more further from accurate. They have to receive notice before they get sent to other installations, where CCA could be sent anywhere in 50 miles with basically no notice. One of the common things that comes up from time to time, especially in smaller offices, is they'll try to force a CCA to go to another office in their own vehicle after they've already clocked in at their home office. They can't require them to do that. They don't own that person's car. But managers get kind of arrogant sometimes and think that they could just tell them to do whatever because they're their supervisor and that like they own them. No, they don't. And in that situation, the carrier could say no, and I think we'll be fine. But if they do it and we find out later, then we file a grievance, get it to stop, and usually give them their mileage and things like that. And they should be on the clock once they've clocked in at their home facility. They shouldn't be telling them to clock out to go to another office either. That's improper as well. The return trip is a little trickier. There's actually some language on it. They could kind of have them clock out the other places as long as they provide them transportation back to their home office, which I don't care for in their contract, but it does state it, so it is what it is.
Yeah.
So that's a kind of a quick thing. I'm sure there's things I missed, but that's just some things off the top of my head
Yeah.
that I was able to come up with.
Yeah. So, what are the most common grievances you deal with? I know it's probably like overtime. That's probably the biggest one. What are some other, common grievances that you're dealing with?
You're correct. Overtime, work hour limits, which is kind of a variation off overtime, but carriers being required to work beyond, whether it's a ODL carriers working beyond 12 hours, CCAs and PTFs working beyond their 11 and a half, or a non-ODL carrier being required to work over 10 on a regular scheduled day or 8 on an off day, even though they probably shouldn't be working their off day if they are required to, or it's like a holiday or situation or something. They shouldn't work over 8. And then there's discipline, really. I mean, specifically attendance discipline is probably one of the more common ones we have as well. There's just, especially in the last year or so, it seems like there's been a little harder push with the Postal Service to initiate more attendance grievance or attendance discipline. So those are probably, like, if I had to put a top 3, those are probably the top 3.
Yeah. So, what are our rights as like management's been bringing me in for calling off. What are our rights as far as calling off, and what do you recommend somebody who, like, something happens at the last minute? What type of leave should they use, or what should they be? What's the protocol for call offs and things of that nature? Because things happen in life. So
Well, I mean, there's a few things that are, definitely protected kind of leaves. The Family Medical Leave Act, first of all, if you have a medical condition of some kind, and it could be a psychological condition or other things. If you get the FMLA coverage from your doctor, that gives you up to 12 weeks a year of coverage that you cannot be disciplined for. It may or may not be paid leave. You could even use LWOP for that kind of leave. And they cannot discipline you for that. It's illegal. If they try to cite FMLA protected absences in a discipline, we'll get it thrown out. And if they're not careful, the employee can actually turn around and sue the employer for that kind of thing. Bereavement leave. Bereavement leave is for the death of a parent, a sibling, children. I think the new contract, if it actually gets passed, the grandchildren would be included in that. So that's up to 3 days of leave that is protected. They should not cite discipline against you. One other sick leave provision we have is 80 hours of sick leave dependent care to care for a child or an elderly parent or something like that. That's a little grayer area whether you can actually be disciplined for utilizing it or not. I've used that as a defense, though, and have had some success with it. Obviously, sometimes things come up and you have to do what you have to do, and the best thing you can do is get something to protect yourself as best as you can. If it's an unscheduled absence, even if you have good reasons, give your steward something to work with. If your house flooded or something, you take a video or some pictures of it in case. We shouldn't have to go to this level, I feel like, but
just to cover your ass.
if they issue discipline and you give me that, it's going to help. It's definitely can't hurt. So that's what I recommend, is doing what you can to cover yourself and protect yourself. But your kids get sick, you get sick. These things happen sometimes. You get in a car accident on the way to work, you're going to miss work that day. It's just, you might be in the hospital. You maybe hopefully you're okay, but the more you can to explain, and the better. A lot of times, I think one of the hard things we have as stewards when we're in an interview with a carrier is they give very vague answers or non-responses to when they're asked about it. But that's their time to tell management what happened and explain it. And then if they don't take that in consideration in a reasonable way, it actually helps us in our defense. But if you just walk in there and go sick, for train, sick, train, you're not giving us much to work with here. And that's something with a steward. We try to talk to the carrier beforehand, and sometimes you do, and they still do the same thing. So, it is what it is in that situation. But believe it or not, that interview can help us in defending you against discipline if you take the time and say, you know what, I had the flu that morning. I had to go to the toilet. I was throwing up. I mean, hey, if that's what we got to do, then that's what we got to do. You know what I mean?
Right.
Does it feel stupid? Yeah, it does. But that's what we got to do.
Right. So about the contract, because that's one of the most popular topics I get. I get messages flooded every day. What is your opinion about this contract, and what do you think people should vote yes, no, or is the stuff in there going to help carriers, the good and the bad? Like, what is your opinion on it?
Well, I know you had Mike Carafon recently, our national business agent. I support his position on the contract that we should vote no. I could kind of go into a few of my reasons why. Some of them probably cross over into what Mike has said many times, but not to be too repetitive. But the 1.3% raises, I feel we can do better than that if we go to arbitration. I just think it'll be hard for us to do worse than that. Let's put it this way. I think it's a very small gamble. The two-step jump, I think, should have applied across the board. I think we're treating different employees differently with that. And I could, a lot of carriers, don't like that. It feels unfair that only the bottom, not that they don't deserve the steps, because they do. I think the lower pay is way too low, considering what else is out there in society right now for what they ask a letter carrier to do. The fact that our PTFs right now, I believe, are making less than PTF clerks, or in the same ballpark, when in the 90s we won an arbitration, we should be a level above the clerks. Not that I'm trying to disparage the clerks in any way, but I think our job is harder. And we won that fight. Why are we now regressing kind of to them in pay? That doesn't sit well. The uniform allowance increase is totally inadequate with the amount of the uniforms have increased. A slight increase on something that's nearly doubled in price doesn't make sense. They either should revamp the whole thing or significantly increase how much money the carriers get for that. We shouldn't have to be dipping into our own pockets for something they require us to wear. The fixed office time being reduced by 13 minutes for route inspections, I really can't. To me, that's a huge sin for a union rep to give that up for nothing. I don't see what we got to in order to hand management basically in a route. For example, Tinley Park, your office, it's a good chance that alone puts you, when a route inspection team comes in, down almost a full route before we even done anything, because every route in the office is going to lose 13 minutes of office time automatically off the top. 30 some odd routes put you pretty close to an 8 hours. I think someone did the math. It's around 35, 36. I think Tinley Park has 31 city routes when I was out there the other day. It's just a lot of these things in the contract like that just feels like we could do better. And while there is a few nice things in the contract, none of them feel like they offset the negatives to me. And, I know there's people out there who are scared to go into arbitration because last time we went to arbitration, it didn't go that well. But we've also achieved big gains in arbitration in the past, such as the higher level I was talking about. In the 70s, we rejected a contract and actually got a better deal by going to arbitration. It's the only time the memberships rejected a contract. So, and quite frankly, I just think we're supposed to, like Mike said, there's a law that talks about we're supposed to be paid to similar employees in the private industry. And we should definitely be pointing out UPS in that situation. They're making more than us. I'm sure the Postal Service can try to point at, maybe Amazon or something that they could try to point out in that same vein. But I think we can make a pretty compelling case here based on inflation over the years and just how hard it is for them to keep employees right now, that something needs to change with the pay and the benefits for the new employees, the CCAs especially. I think we should go back to all career personally.
I think so too. Yeah, for sure. Because I think a lot less people would quit if they started off with the career benefits. Because like my brother, for example, is a CCA, and he's got to wait a whole nother year before he even sees the vision insurance and all like the paid holidays and stuff. Well, not as a PTF, but like just all the career benefits of being a PTF, and he's got to wait another year. And if he started off that way, he would have the vision insurance and the higher pay. So, one more question I wanted to ask you. A lot of people ask me, my manager's harassing me. They're trying to get me down on my times. They're saying I'm too slow. What would you tell a carrier who's being harassed by management about, just anything in general, like just being harassed by management? What would you tell them?
So there's a few things. First of all, document what's happening in detail. In other words, tell us where it happened, when it happened, how it happened. Were you at your case? Did they kind of barricade you almost in your case? Was the manager yelling at you? Did they stick their finger in your face? Were they getting real close in your personal space? Those kind of details can really help in a case like that to explain exactly how serious the harassment is, how repetitive it is. If there's any witnesses around, take note of that, and then contact your union rep. And I would, and in our situation, contact our branch office as well, so we could ensure that I get a proper investigation in there. If the situation, certain things called that management's required to do, such as IMIP, which is basically an investigation to look into those kind of complaints. If there's a complaint of harassment, filling out a 1767 if you feel your safety's at risk. If you feel the manager's really that threatening to you that your safety's at risk, that's a form you could fill out. Management's required to respond to that form. So those are a few things I would suggest you start with, but get with your union rep as ASAP too, because they're going to be able to guide you on how to write the statement I'm talking about, or they can even interview you and the managers and try to, and other carriers in the office to try to paint the picture of what's going on. Because that's the key in the success of a grievance on harassment is you're trying to paint a picture so someone looking at it from the outside could go, oh shit, that's a problem. This is not right, and we could get a proper remedy for the issue.
Yeah, that's a lot of knowledge. I really appreciate it. Is there anything else you want to add and anything you want to plug? Any 4016 stuff?
Yeah, so real quickly, a couple things is we are having branch elections right now, and I just like to say our current branch president, Dan Smiths, he's stepping down. He's going to go back to carry his route for a couple of years. And just really in his 9 years as our president, and when he started with Vice President Mark Ozier, who then unfortunately passed away a few years back, and Patrice O'Banner has become the vice president, we've seen our branch kind of change a lot, where there's a lot more people involved and included in things, where before it was kind of a very small group of select individuals who seemed to be involved in a lot of this stuff. And I think that started growing our branch much, much stronger. And I've learned a lot from Dan. I learned a lot from Mark, especially. Mark was actually my formal A rep at Tri-City for me for a while as the vice president. So I actually learned how to write grievances under him. And just everything he's done in 9 years in this branch has really helped this branch become much stronger. I really think the 4016 is the best branch in the entire state. I feel that strongly. And that's why, currently Patrice is running for president in these elections. I'm running for vice president. I'm actually currently the recording secretary, as I think I mentioned earlier. And we have an entire team, we call the OBP team. There's flyers around or whatever with all the people on it. They're all good people. I've worked with all of them at different times. And I could say this is going to be a really good team if we all get in the office to help strengthen our branch even further. Just to mention a couple of things me and her have talked about, doing is making, like you saw me in Tinley Park Saturday, for example, more office visits to offices. Something I've already been doing. I've hit about 6 in the last 4 or 5 weeks or so. So the membership can see their officers more and engage with us, find out what's going on, whether it's, it's just simple things like benefits and, we got a contract coming up to vote on, to serious problems that are in the offices, and, being a little more active in the politics and those kind of things, because there's a lot of important bills right now that need to get passed to help carriers, such as the one they're trying to get where CCAs can backdate their, or buy back their time so it could count towards career time. There's a big bill out there to protect letter carriers right now because of the assaults happening, especially in Chicago. But, in the suburbs, we've had some issues too. One of our offices has had some trucks stolen a few months ago in our branch. And we've had carriers who've had issues on the street with customers. Nothing. I can't think of an assault recently or anything, but just incidents that kind of make you take a step back and go, whoa, that could have went worse. And we got a lot of other things we're planning, but I don't want to speak too much about something until we're actually, hopefully we win the election and we're able to start producing these things. But I really feel like we have a good team here and it will really help go forward. And we do a really good job representing other carriers in here. We get a lot of good remedies and different things. You take cases to arbitration. Matter of fact, in your office, arbitration got the postmaster removed from the office for 6 months for her behavior. Our reps did that. You know what I mean? Some of our formal A reps and whatever, and the arbitration advocate who from Region 3 did a great job in that case. My office, we've gotten accelerated remedies for those work hour limits where carriers get extra money on top of the 50% to try to get the violations to stop. These are just a couple examples of things we've won at arbitration because of the efforts of a lot of people in our branch that really do a good job.
Yeah, you guys do a great job. And I love that you guys are always having events and stuff. Like we had the strike out in my office where, well, not the strike, just the rally, I should say. Yeah, rally, I should say, in front of our office, scheduling stuff like that. It's, you know, it's definitely because I get comments from people in different states and stuff, and they say, oh, my rep is not fighting for me and stuff like that. What would you say to somebody who, like, their rep is not fighting for them properly? What actions would you tell them to take? Because I hear that a lot.
Well, let me answer that, but let me add one more thing quick. We talk about the events too. We do a lot of MDA events for the membership too. That does a lot of great things. We have it's next Sunday, yeah, the 17th, I believe. There's a Bears Packers tailgate for IPALC, which raised money for the political funds to help with some of the things I was talking about. So always everyone keep their eye out on their union boards for all these different flyers we send out. There's a Facebook page for 4016, which I recommend any member join because a lot of information gets put on the Facebook page as well. As far as if they feel like they're not getting proper representation from their branch, first and foremost, go to your branch meetings, find out what's going on. A lot of times people are judging things and they don't get all the information. So sometimes it may be things are better than you think, or maybe they're just not aware of a problem in your office because no one's told them. Sometimes it's a communication issue. But if the representation is really that bad, and then maybe you need to, I know some people don't like to hear this. I'm a dues member. I shouldn't have to do this. But if people aren't doing right, somebody's got to step up and do right. If ultimately your branch is not doing right, and that's what it takes is people willing to do the right thing and do the things they're supposed to do. But I'm not going to sit here and say any branch is not doing anything correctly. I'm not going to say anything like that. But, first thing you got to do, though, I think, is get information and find out what's going on for sure. Don't go by what you hear or rumors how many times, a carrier told me, so-and-so told me this. And it's like, well, that's not a rule at all. It's just some made up thing. Managers make up rules all the time. So
They do. They lie right to your face.
yes, they do.
They lie right to your face. But John, I really appreciate you coming on. You're more than welcome to come on anytime you want. I'm going to post this video tomorrow. Thank you guys all for watching. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next video.